Hi, how you doing? Yes, I am the founder of Tradesparq.com. And what is it? A simple way to think of Tradesparq is what would happen if Alibaba and LinkedIn got married and had a baby. It would look a little bit like us. All right? We are a social platform for global trade. And as Anson mentioned before that, I worked with Global Sources for 7 years, mostly looking at supplier content and running the supplier content for that company. But now, what I was asked to do is talk about how the social internet may be impacting sourcing, right? I thought that was a pretty interesting topic. So the first thing that came to my mind would probably be social search. And so that's what I want to talk about here first, is what is social search and verification? What is it? And how can it apply to sourcing, if at all? And what should we expect in the future? So the first thing I think we need to understand is, what is social search? And social search takes into account a person's social graph online when they do a search. So for example, if I'm on Facebook or LinkedIn, YouTube or whatever, and I'm logged in, and I do a search, the information that's going to pop up first are from people in my network, right? And the way we see this the most happening today is much like the gentleman from Tesco mentioned, is in for companies in branding, right? So that means if some lady did a search on Facebook for a certain product, and the first thing, and she's logged in, the first thing that may come up would be a complaint from someone she's connected to. Not necessarily one of your company's product description, right? So that's why it's so critical in the managing the brand space to understand how social search is working, especially for consumers, right? But that's not really happening right now when you think about it for B2B or for sourcing. So first I want to show you what is an example of a social search, just so we're all on the same page. That would be like on LinkedIn, I did a search for Maersk, and the first things that's going to come up are my connections on LinkedIn that are tied to Maersk. Right? So that brings in my social graph into that search. Now, it only happens within LinkedIn. Now, what Google tried to do, and is still trying with its Google Plus, is to say, hey, we've got so many properties online, like YouTube and others, that when you do a search on Google and you're logged in, we're going to start feeding you the YouTube videos and other things that your network has written about your search topic. And the example they always bring up is something like, gee, I want to look for a new book, I'm looking at what movie to go see, and I do a search, and all of a sudden the ratings and reviews for my network come up first. Again, that's kind of interesting, right? I mean, it's neat. So why is Google so forced on looking and trying to expand in this area? Facebook, there's tons of articles on the internet about, hey, is Facebook search going to end up being greater than Google? Because once it applies to billions of people and their connections, is that search going to be more relevant? Right? That's why these companies are so focused on bringing the social part into the search, even the Bing search engine. And you look at the benefits of it. Okay, increased relevance, right? So if you do a search, something that is related to your search and someone you know comes up first. It can save time. For example, the book. I can find a book that I may want to read quicker. It includes human judgment because it typically involves ratings and other things that could pop up in the search first. Like we mentioned the lady on Facebook and the product description. It is personalized to each searcher. So my search when logged in will be different than your search. That can be really neat. There's a lot of value that can come in that. And it can let you verify things via your network. Again, that book, hey, did you really like it? Someone else didn't like it. You can immediately contact them because you know them. So all of that makes sense, but will it work for sourcing? How does it apply? I think we first got to look at how is sourcing online search working today? Is there even a problem? And when you search for something like brake pads on Google, you're going to find thousands and thousands of suppliers, millions even. On Alibaba, hundreds of thousands of suppliers. Right? So it's really confusing. Who should I go and contact first? How do I do diligence on these guys? So there is a problem. And often these search results are returned by ad spend. So how good is that for the buyer? Now let's take a look at the second problem, and that may be verification. A lot of these websites like Global Sources, Alibaba, Made in China, etc., they call a supplier a gold supplier. And how do you become a gold supplier? You pay. right? So the verification is not really there. They may include a star ranking, but a 5-star ranking is higher than a 3-star ranking because they paid more. That's just the reality of it. And the costs are not cheap. A top supplier in a search in Alibaba may be paying $60,000, $70,000 US dollars a year on a really hot product category. Other sites are doing verification via third party, like a Panjiva, which pulls in customs data, credit reports, audits. Neat stuff. But still, none of this is social. And these sites cannot do social because it's companies searching for company. And social does not work that way. Companies don't connect with companies. People connect with people. So when you look at sourcing and how it may apply, you say, I want to verify something via my network. I want to do a search, and maybe I'm going to see who my current trade partners, if they popped up first. Maybe an inspection agent that I've worked with is connected to a supplier. Shouldn't that supplier pop up higher? Because I have the potential to verify that supplier via my inspection agent? How about coworkers? When you look at how many people may have a sourcing team of 100, 200 in different companies, in different countries, and if they did a search in Chile and they found out that one of their sourcing colleagues in another country had already worked with a supplier in China, and that came up first, so it can apply to sourcing. It seems like it should work. But it also needs to be free. I think that's an important thing that we need to look at. All the social sites that have been successful, the Facebooks, the LinkedIns, etc., all start out by being free. They let you build the network first, and they figure out other ways to make money. So let's take a supplier search on a Web 1.0 engine. Right? So you're going to do a product search. It's going to be filtered by the website's tools. Maybe it's located in China, maybe it's a manufacturer, maybe it's by star rating. You select the suppliers that you think you may want to contact. You've got to somehow filter it down by yourself. And then you shortlist them and try and go do factory visits and due diligence. On a social search, what we're hoping to see is that you do the product search, but then it's ordered separately by your network. Therefore, you can do faster verification and get to that due diligence stage faster. And what we're not showing here is past the due diligence area, you start getting into product lifecycle management. Does that have any place? Some of the RFI, RFQ software, spam analytics software, and these kind of things? Would that play into the game a little bit later? When you think about how sites like even Apple's iTunes and the Google mobile phone, Android store, suddenly there are applications that you can download, and the reason you're downloaded is because someone you already know is using it. They're typically free or very cheap, and the network drives what tools you're using. Much different than you may see on like an Ariba or a Habu or these sites, which they're closed. They're company and company. You must use their product. You must use their platform, and they must all be on it. And if you're not, you don't get the benefit of it. And when it comes to social, they cannot be social because, again, it's company to company, not person to person. And I think the first question that people think, well, why would people in trade even want to be social? Isn't it critical for us to hide the information and who I'm working with? Well, the way these social platforms work, and it's been shown over and over again, is that different people have different examples or different feelings about privacy and how this network can work for them. And if they get benefit from it, they're more likely to open up to it. And it's been shown on all the sites that are successful in the social space. So you have the opportunity in a proper world of social search and social sourcing, you should be able to say, I don't want to share anything. I just want to do a search, and I'm going to get the same thing that Alibaba does. Or you could do a second step and say, hey, I'm going to invite only colleagues in my company, only people that I trust, much like a Google Circles does. And I'm going to bring them in, and I'm going to share only with them. I'm going to only view what they are sharing with me because I trust them. And so, yes, I'm sharing, but in a limited way that I feel comfortable with. I think this is what a lot of enterprises are looking at and thinking of. Full sharing, I was just talking to the gentleman from Snyder a little bit, right before they came up here, saying, why would anybody share? And already we see that companies, for example, a small barbecue guy in the UK is rating suppliers and sharing them with everybody he knows. It's out there. It's happening with a lot of small guys, especially those that work with eBay, etc. So I believe that this issue of privacy can work in a social setting as long as you have the control of who's sharing it and what you're sharing. So what I look about it is say, okay, if you can do a product search, this is what it should be in reality. A product search returned by your network, ratings, assessment, third-party data, anything that's attached to that supplier that you may want to view, access to a wider supplier base, not just people that you work with already, like in the Ariba setting or whatever, where they have to be in that platform, and you have to be connected to them already, and it needs to be an open platform and open and free for this type of thing to work, right? So I want to give you an example of what it may look like, right? Let's say you did a search for fence. The first thing that should come up are people that are selling fences that I have a relationship to, I have a connection with, right? It may be somebody I've already worked with. I already know they're qualified, that's good. Second in the search should be someone in your network. Maybe I have not worked with them, I don't know them, but my inspection agent or somebody else has worked with them, which allows me to go and contact that person to see if I can get some more information on them. Also, you should include things like ratings. So if you've got a supplier assessment or a supplier's been rated by someone in your company, that should figure in the search and pop up right in the search as, oh, this supplier's already been rated. Oh, it's been rated 5 times by different people in my company. Oh, there's a supplier assessment form attached to it. Oh, there's a video. Oh, there are other things attached to it. All pulled directly from the search. And in addition to that, you can bring in the customs data, things like Panjiva are already doing, and saying, hey, okay, maybe the supplier's in my network, I'm viewing the ratings, but I also want to see, have they shipped to the United States before? How much have they shipped? How often? What did they ship? All this information can be tied together in a social search. And that's where I see this space going. In addition, it needs to be, or probably would look like a LinkedIn or a Facebook dashboard. So when you or one of your team, and I think this is more of a, not so much the VP of sourcing, but more the merchandisers and the guys on the ground, and for the company, the export sales staff, because these are the guys that get commission for selling. These are the ones that are doing more of the connections and more of the searching. And they get onto a dashboard-like area where whenever they've connected with a supplier, automatically every time that supplier uploads a new product, it gets sent to me directly in real time. Now, think about it from the supplier side. A lot of times if you put a product up on any of the other sites, it immediately goes out to the world. But in reality, a lot of suppliers, when they have a new product, they don't want to share it with everybody. They want to share it with a preferred buyer or someone they trust. Maybe it's a new hot product. The gentleman from Tesco this morning was talking about, how do you keep in tune with the latest stuff, the newest thing? Well, if the supplier has the ability to market directly to you, and you've already connected, you know who they are, you get live updates, live feeds of what they're doing, what their products are doing, what trade shows they're going to, right? So there's a lot of ways that this kind of social network actually can apply to sourcing. And if you're someone new to the network, you're able to use your viral ability to import your contacts from other websites. Invite them to join. Why would you do that? Because if a buyer inviting other people or other colleagues in allows you to filter your search. Why do suppliers do it? Because it allows them to share their products across the web to people they've already worked with. See a trade show. You go to a trade show, you get 50 cards. You can go ahead and share out your products to those people that you met at the trade show. All specs and everything included. So this is kind of, I think, the last slide I didn't like was a little pithy here, but if the information isn't out there already, it will be soon. And what I mean by that is the transparency on the internet is pulling more and more information and material about your companies, and it's already out there. It's out there on the consumer side about comments about your products, and it's also going to be out there, believe me, on the sourcing side. Who you're working with, what these suppliers, what their capabilities are. No one knows the degree to that you're working with them, but that information is out there. And so it's going to be your job to, if you try and block it, you're going to eventually lose. That's the way the internet is going. But you do need to manage it. And I think, the winners won't just manage it, they'll use it. They'll be able to connect with companies and suppliers and their coworkers to cut down the cycle of time that they go ahead and find a good supplier, and to help them find tools and applications like RFI, RFQs, and other things that will allow them to work better with their suppliers. So I guess in conclusion, yeah, I think social sourcing is available on the internet. It's going to apply to the internet. You're going to be seeing it. It's the way it's going to go. It's going to be free. It's going to be open to the entire world, which means that instead of one sourcing group maybe in Europe has all their suppliers are in Europe, or in a social setting, if a supplier in Vietnam gets on, they're inviting their colleagues, and that starts to spin really quickly. So even on our site, we see that once a supplier or two in a region comes in, it starts spinning out. And that's the way viral works, and that's the way social works, and that's probably how it's going to apply to sourcing. Anyway, I think I threw a lot of information at you in a fast way, but did I make my 15 minutes? I think so. So that's it. And anybody interested in Tradesparq, please talk to me after. That would be great. Thanks.
Michael, just one quick point, because you and I travelled on the MTR this morning together. When we were talking this morning, I think one of the interesting things is just the volume of information out there, right? I mean, there really is a lot of information. So basically, you're helping to kind of aggregate that information. But you were also telling me that there's, the amount of information that you can get these days, even from the U.S. government, there's tons of information.
Right.
I mean, obviously, the Chinese government have already got all that information, but...
Right, if you look at something like customs data, we get records of probably 40,000 shipments a day that come in, and that is public information. And that's available, and if you start adding that up, that is millions and millions of records on who's supplying to who and what information is out there. And you can pay for that information now, but soon it's going to be free. That's just the way the internet is going. And that means the volume of data about you and your companies online is going to grow, and it's going to grow fast. And it's going to be shared, and you just need to be aware of it. And I think if you can use it to your advantage, helping you find out what good suppliers are and maybe what your competitors are doing, then you're going to get a benefit of it, not a lot.
So you can actually get that data right now.
Yes.
All the records are there.
Yes. Yeah.
Going to the U.S. Trade Department and...
Right. Every shipment.
And you can download every shipment.
Every shipment, yeah, to the U.S. Customs. Other sites are charging, and you have to pay for that information. We offer it for free.
Because everybody could go to Tradesparq and get it for free, right?
That's right. You come in, you do a search, and you can search on a company or a product and get customs information tied to that product. And that's the way it's going.
Right. The world of social media, ladies and gentlemen, and just the data that's out there.
Yeah, it's exploding.
Just
you start bringing in video and other things tied to suppliers and yourselves. It's a great way to market your company. So I think you don't want to be afraid of it. You want to use it.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Kleist. Thank you, Michael.